I'm still not back to normal and I still don't know the cause yet. So I've shifted my focus to things that require a little bit less deep concentration. Things like backdrop art and finally redoing the main menu. You've probably already seen the new logo, but now I've finally integrated it and restyled a lot of things to make it fit better. There's been some more polish throughout the game, but other than that I don't really have much to show right now. I have been reworking the entire tutorial system because I ran into some bugs where it might not detect things correctly and get you back on track if you veered off the course in the tutorial. And I figured that the current system defining all these steps in JSON was going to be a little bit difficult to solve these problems with. It would have required me adding a lot more fields, doing a lot more parsing. It just seemed like it would be a lot easier to go back to hard coding the logic in C++, just for figuring out what the next step should be. And now the JSON file is just for the text line so that I can swap that out later on when I do localization to other languages. I suppose the biggest news for me right now is I just noticed that IGF submissions are open and they're closing on October 11th. So now that I have an external deadline again, I'm going to try my best to get a decent build ready for that. Which means I will have to make some compromises. I'm sure there will be a lot of missing things and bugs, but I'm just trying to polish the first 15-ish minutes of gameplay as best I can to make a good initial impression. And once I've submitted that first build, I'll keep iterating and improving as much as I can. And because I don't really have much else to say about Galactic Chef, I want to talk a little bit about a big news item that doesn't really affect me personally, but does affect a lot of other indie devs. You've probably guessed it, I'm talking about the new Unity runtime licensing fee. Now, by the time of this video, the worst parts of this have already been backtracked, but I think it's worth talking about the original form of this and how it was communicated, because it speaks to a very dire problem with Unity. For anyone who hasn't really been following this, let me give you the short version. Originally, any game using the Unity runtime would be subject to this fee, even if it's already been out for years. Anytime someone installs the game, starting in 2024, the developer would have to pay a fee. There are some caveats. You have to meet a certain install threshold and revenue threshold, but let's say you have a successful game. Let's say you have a free-to-play game, and you have some kind of DLC or other in-app purchases that got you past that revenue threshold. You would then have to pay per install. And some people did the math and found that this would bankrupt them. That because it's a free-to-play game, many more people had installed it than had paid any money for it. So it could exceed the lifetime revenue of the game. And developing a game is a long-term commitment. You could be years deep into development when this sudden change happens, and now you have to reevaluate. Is it still viable to use Unity? If you have one of those games where you would end up in debt from this fee, what choice do you have? Let's say you've already shipped a game. What choice do you have? You can pull it off the Steam store, but people could still install it. People that already have it in their library could still cost you for new installs. When you start a game project and you decide what engine to use, you should be able to trust that the licensing terms you see at that time are the terms that you're going to be bound to. Just changing the deal on a whim later sets a terrible precedent. One more thing. They previously said they wouldn't do this. They had a clause in their terms that said you could stay on the terms of the version you were using. And they had a GitHub repo to track the changes so you could reference your applicable terms. And then they removed that clause and they hid that GitHub repo. And they said it wasn't because of this. They said it was because it's not getting enough views, which is absurd. I don't think anybody buys that, especially after there are demonstrable lies in their public communication. So, yes, they have walked back a lot of the worst parts of this. It's no longer retroactive. They've promised they won't change the terms on you like this in the future. They've said that reinstalls won't count. They've said that you can report the install numbers yourself instead of their black box system doing it. But I don't trust a word they say anymore. After Galactic Chef, I was actually planning on going back and looking at all the other engines and reevaluating them, seeing how they've changed over the years. I might even switch to another engine for my next project. But Unity is now off the table for good. Like, the only way I could ever consider Unity again is if either the entire executive team were removed from the company, or if they got an independent investigator to find out whose idea this was, who supported it, and remove all of those people. Because whoever came up with the idea of retroactively changing the deal for games that are already shipped, if that person's still able to make decisions in that company, that is dangerous to do business with them. I am so glad I have not shipped a game in Unity. So anyway, that's my rant over, and that's all for this video. As always, it really helps me out if you hit the like button, spread the word, and subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, thanks for watching.